Before we start the race, I just want to tell you really quick, big thank you to everybody involved, from the racers, from Seraph Omega, the high tier Patreon member, supporting me and the channel, and as well as any of the people that took videos, which you'll see multiple different camera angles throughout this race, as well as multiple narrations from me and Cypher1. So thank you for being here and thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, ignition, please. Go ahead and start your engines. Drivers, start your engines. We'd like to welcome everyone to the first inaugural Point A to B2C race here on Dayar, brought to you by the Evenlease. I am your host, Cypher1 here, and we're looking forward to a very clean race here till about the midway point. Then things are going to be getting a little bit violent. So, without further ado, let's get ready to rumble. 3, 2, 1, and it's lights out and away we go. We are racing on Dayar. So just to give everyone a little bit of an overlook on what we're going to be doing here today, we've got our racers will be leaving Eager Flats. It's a Point A to B to C race here. They're going to be traversing through an Idris, flying out through her mouth. Upon exiting that Idris, they'll be then getting a bit violent with one another as they vie for positioning, jostling with both wheel and gun on their way to Shubin Mining Facility SCD-1. The first ones there are your Grand Prix winners here, even though it's not much of a Prix, it's just a marathon. So we'll have to see how many of them can actually even cross that finish line here intact. Let's take a look here as we now have a live feed here. And yes, we'd like to also honor our sponsor here today. This race here has been sponsored by Seraph Omega, being a high-tier Patreon member. Brought to you from him. This race was his brainchild, his idea, and we are all here because of him today. So a big round of applause and a big thank you for, once again, Seraph Omega here. As our race is underway, we do see one of our first overtakes here on the first place position. It could be Draconian Power overtaking Little Maybug, and really trustworthy. A good driver here, but it seems like he will be ever so slightly overtaken, and right on his tail is Love Chief and RC the Vixen. RC, our previous victor here, she'll be manning the gun here for Love Chief today. We'll have to see if that's going to play any kind of a larger role coming forward here. Meanwhile, the middle of the pack, you've got Hunter and I believe that is I can't see the names down below here, but Hunter and oh, never mind, just turned over here. What 124 Ice here was giving them a good race here, but he is just turned over. Meanwhile, middle of the pack, you've got Salty, Squirrel, and other notable names, Shadow and Friends, all trying to vie for that middle of the pack position here. We're going to be seeing that they can try to end in the points here. You do want to, do what you can. Every position does matter here. Each one of these brand names and companies does want to finish as high as they can, because every position that you can take here in the championship does matter. It will kind of dictate next year's positioning, power rankings. It's important to keep in mind. Despite how level these races can be, it does seem like Love Chief and RC the Vixen have potentially found a lead here. There is no consistent track moving forward. There is kind of what you make of it. You need to find your own way around. But there is an Idris that must be passed through from start to finish, from back to front. And that is the real only defining characteristic of a track that we have here. Otherwise, it is a cross-country sprint. Make what you will of the terrain and find your best way to arrive. It seems like they're choosing to go through one of these asteroid craters here. And while that first choice was seeming like it was a good thing for Love Chief, it seems like that might cost him here. However, they are picking up speed. They are gaining on the straight here. We could see a bit of an overtake once again. Little Maybug and Trustworthy could lose his position here as they get a little more speed here on the downhill. Moving forward here, looking good for Love Chief. It is a long race. It is a 70-something, I believe 73, 75 kilometer race. So it is more about consistency than big moves and speed in one little situation here. It's more about, can you stay towards the front for as long as possible? Because once those guns start flying, you're going to see a lot of these cars start dropping. Fairly clean race so far. No aggressive racing just yet. These drivers giving themselves the space they need to work and drive and kind of navigate this more treacherous Dayar terrain. A bit of a mountain range in between them on the way to the Idris as well. We'll have to see how they handle that.
Seeing a lot of movement over these hills where they're losing control and they're doing a lot of like just unplanned flipping and rotations along the back of the line here. A lot of people, yeah, a lot of these Cyclones seem to be losing control and spinning out quite often, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, you have to wonder if the choice for the hard tires was a mistake here. If they should have been on inters. If that would have made a difference on the terrain. There's no different tires for those of us who don't know about the Cyclone. But you know, it really makes you wonder what they could have done better here to better prepare for this terrain. I mean, there was a last-minute switch. We were going to be on a course, and now we're on in A, B, C. So, you know, good on the drivers to be able to adjust on the fly, but we are seeing the consequences of that adjustment as flip after flip, turnover after turnover. But it does seem like really trustworthy, and little Maddog retain that control with Love Chief and RC hot on their heels. DRS is enabled. They are going for that overtake, but do they have the speed on the straight? It remains to be seen.
And with that speed, they do have to be very cautious because any little bump at speed with these vehicles and you will lose control. As seen with that second place car there, they just lost control, giving even more of a gap to the first place.
That gap is indeed widening. It's going to be hard to catch, but if they can at least stay within firing distance.
Ooh, that first place car just lost control because they hit that at speed.
Absolute catastrophe. They're definitely going to have to watch the tape back on that one. That's going to be something that they go over later. And if there was a way that they could have taken that corner on the edge of that crater a bit better. Does seem like other drivers are making similar mistakes. That second place car now falling into third, a precarious position here, could even be entering fourth if they can't maintain that speed on the straight.
That's what it looks like. They just pushed right into fourth because they hit the same hill that the first place car hit and lost a little bit of control there.
Oh,
and,
my.
Oh, just toppled on another one there. And one just flipped over. Oh.
Bit of a collision here. We'll have to radio in down to the crew chiefs and make sure that everyone is okay coming forward here. But it does seem like the drivers and gunners are going to be able to continue forward. Yeah, looking like might have lost a bit of a front end wing there, missing off of that back of that fourth place car, or third place car rather. However, looking good, looking like they're going to be able to keep moving forward. You know, you'd like to see it here. Once you really bring the camera in, you can see how nefarious the terrain here is to navigate, constantly off level, constantly with larger boulders or rocks, foliage obscuring potential hazards on the dunes here of Dayar. And so you know, credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. And in very last place right now, someone seems to be having a rock challenge in a crater very far away from the pack, but they have plenty of time to catch up. It just depends if they can get away from all the rocks and craters in the ground. But right now, they're a good kilometer behind.
A good kilometer behind indeed, but we'll have to see. I mean, as long as they can maintain that distance, you know, within a kilometer or two, there is a chance for them to make up that lost time here, because a lot of these vehicles I do not suspect are going to make the finish line in this tightly packed first place and middle of the pack groups are absolutely going to be tearing into each other here very, very soon. You have to wonder if being in last is actually the strategically sound position.
There's a good chance for that because once they pass that Idris, the gunners will be unleashed and allowed to fire at each other, making this kind of a murderous race. Because right now, first place is starting to lose their lead. Second place is moving up quick. I'm not sure the names on that car, but they're moving in quick with the white and blue paint, looking fantastic, and they're almost about to make first place themselves. So we'll see. I'm not sure the distance between now and B, but we're getting there. We're getting there fast.
That's going to be Neon Rob and Proxy in that second place. Proxy Fox, you know, they were fighting for fourth for a bit there, but it seems after a couple of mishaps and some advantageous driving to them, opportunistic, you could say. They were able to make up a lot of that distance and take that second place, but first place still is in the hands of really trustworthy and little Maddog here. They've been controlling it for a good bit, and it's a gap that they're going to want to build. They really want to be out of the range of their fellows' guns to the rear here, so that they're, you know, the ones in the rear are shooting at each other, and thus effectively guaranteeing a first place. If none of these second, third, fourth place drivers can kind of come to the consensus that we need to shoot first place and shoot at each other, this will effectively guarantee a win for the already, you know, gap widening first place driver here of really trustworthy and his compatriot little Maddog. So we'll have to see if these drivers can come to that conclusion and fight for first place, or if they're going to choose to fight to try to retain the positions that they have and surrender that first place. We'll have to see what they choose.
Absolutely. And a lot of these drivers are finding the terrain to be a little difficult, widening the gap between the top 4 here and the rest of the Cyclones. They're putting speed ahead of maneuverability, and currently that's not helping them. Every time they up their speed to the highest, the maneuverability of the terrain is falling them further and further behind. They keep spinning out of control, rolling, and just pushing their gap further and further. It's quite crazy.
Crazy indeed is the case here, as we do see them kind of approaching the halfway point to the halfway point. Oh my, a bit of a collision there, does it seem? Or perhaps
no, he just spun out of control. Yeah, a little spin there with the third place vehicle. Just, who's in that third place vehicle? Can you get me some names on that one?
Yeah, that is, let's see, I believe that's going to be the likes of the Virtu, and I can't actually see what the second name is. Kodatora, perhaps? Yeah, the Virtu and Kodatora are in that third place vehicle. Virtu will be your driver. Kodatora is in that gunner's position, your gunnery.
Understood. First place gap is widening again, but it seems to be kind of like a rubber band or a slinky. It just keeps going back and forth where the gap is getting smaller, bigger, and the second place car right now is just trailing in the dust of first place. But there's always a chance first place is going to hit some terrain they don't like. We're going to keep an eye on that.
Yes, and it's all the more likely to with the way the terrain is. It is really a race of not who is better per se, but a race of who makes less mistakes, because we're all going to make mistakes here. This terrain is far too treacherous. There's no way that you drive these 70 kilometers without a single mishap. I've yet to see it. I've yet to do it myself as a career driver, and you know, it's really impressive and inspiring to see all of these young racers, this newer generation, kind of taking to the field today and showing what they can do here at the Dayar Derby. The eager flats, and then there's nothing flat about it, really. It is a misnomer, I would say, as they enter yet another asteroid crater here, using that kind of downtrending hill here to pick up some speed. But we'll have to see if they bleed a little too much of it on the way up, trying to find an angle here where they lose that minimal amount of speed and can capitalize. But that lip, it could be disastrous here. We'll see how they navigate it. It's going to be little Maddog, really trustworthy, coming over the edge here, getting some air.
Oh, and they rolled. Oh, no. They're on their belly. They're on their back right now. Oh, they flip back over. They are starting to drive again. But second place went over that hill very slow, allowing them to really close that gap.
And that's what we're talking about. You know, it's those split-second decisions of, yeah, we'll sail over this crater here and we'll be perfectly fine. And the truth is that you won't. That suspension is not going to hold up the way you think it is.
Oh, he spun out of control. Second place just took first. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Catastrophe for both of these cars here. Neon Rob taking second place away, but then immediately losing it to the same thing that lost it to first for just a moment. Again, immediately these cars overtake one another, and the lineup remains the same. Really trustworthy, retaining that first place position. But as you can see, all of these little errors are adding up. Third and fourth place are now hot on their heels, and it is anyone's race at this point.
Absolutely. And it looks like, just due to the fact that it's an A to B to C to race, there's multiple different paths you could take. Oh, and first place just spun out again. Second place is taking the lead. It looks like they're getting close. And that looks like second place has now been moved to first by inches right now. This is pretty crazy. And we're getting into the mountainous terrains of the Dayar Eager Flats on the way to Shubin. So this is going to get crazy here. We're going to see how they maneuver here, because we could potentially lose some drivers.
This is where things really start to get interesting. You know, you'd think it would be when the guns start shooting and the bullets start flying, but no, the terrain, I think, is actually the true villain of this story here. And these mountain ranges are not going to be something easy to negotiate. As we can already see, our first victim here, they are able to correct themselves, but it costs them so much time here, the likes of Major Shadow and company. And you do hate to see it. It's a big C, I think, on the driver's wheel here off for that vehicle. But then we'll see yet another one. That's going to be the Virtue losing control, and Big C going to be able to recover that lost position. It's an absolutely volatile race. And as you can see, it's actually dictated by the first place driver. The first place driver is kind of, wow, they're absolutely jostling for position here. Wheel-to-wheel action, and that is going to be Neon Rob potentially taking the first place and then immediately flipping over and losing it. Really trustworthy, going to take that position right back. Neon Rob trying to find that bigger downturn here on that more aggressive slope, but it's going to cost them as they encounter an obstacle and absolutely lose control of their vehicle here. But that was a really good effort there out of Neon Rob. Some wheel-to-wheel action was really trustworthy. We're going to see first place being the pace and the trackside here, as a lot of people are actually following the footsteps of that first place car when it comes to the terrain, or at least they were when they were on the spine of that mountain.
Yeah, they were, but then they decided not to. And this is also closing the gap with a lot of your cars that are way out there. This terrain is causing all these front headers to just slow down, causing everybody to kind of start get grouped up here. We are going to start seeing a lot of... Ooh, another car just flipped in the back. It looks like someone in fifth. A lot of rolls back there, and all this terrain is just brutal.
It absolutely is. It really is hard to kind of understand what these drivers are going through now if you've never done it before. The blistering, sweltering heat, you're in your suits, your atmospheric suits, but it really doesn't feel like it's doing anything. You've got sweat coming down your brow inside your helmet. There's nothing you can do about it. And then you've got these rocks, the dirt, everything assailing you, and you can't really fault them for the mistakes that they're making, but you can only hope that everyone is going to be okay. And we know the answer to that question is going to be they're not going to be okay. They're not having a great time, but they're going to keep driving anyway. And that's why we applaud them as really trustworthy. Once again, has an iron grip, I think, on this first place. Loses it, but always immediately regains it. Neon Rob has been the primary antagonist for them, and they have now widened that gap and are actually having to contend with Big C in third place and his friend Major Shadow. Meanwhile, Power and Draconi have been a decent powerhouse here, controlling that fourth and fifth place spot, really making others work for it. Meanwhile, RC the Vixen and Love Chief have fallen back down into that sixth place spot. They were at one point jostling for second, and unfortunately they have indeed fallen behind here. Meanwhile, the middle of the pack doing what they can to keep up that last place position. Again, don't count them out. Once the shooting starts, that might be the safest. Spun out once more.
They're battling the desert and the heat and the terrain, but in the back of their head, they know they're going to go guns free soon. And when they do, it's a whole nother element of just hazard and destruction and death that is going to potentially change the entire landscape of who's in the lead. Currently, speaking of which, first place has been taken by another party.
Oh my. That is indeed Neon Rob finally overtaking the likes of Really Trustworthy, who has, it seems, absolute catastrophe. They've fallen back into third place now after maintaining first for so long. They've fallen back into third after just an absolute just failure of navigating the terrain here. We'll have to see if they can make that up. They've been very, very strong so far on the straights, and I can't imagine that they won't be able to at least begin to jostle for that second place position here. But it is indeed Neon Rob and Proxy Fox well in the lead here. What an absolute massive plateau to negotiate here. Some drivers electing to go around on the smaller end of it. Other drivers electing to go straight through it. The likes of Major Shadow and Neon Rob.
Absolutely. And this is just crazy. The terrain here has gotten so dangerous. You have a lot of cliff edges. You have a lot of hilly terrain and mountains that are just very hard to maneuver, especially with the Cyclone and the wheels that are on them. It makes this type of terrain almost impossible without spinning out, rolling, or losing place altogether.
Yeah, it's going to be something that these drivers, I think, are going to want to kind of take back to their engineers here. There has to be some kind of better tires or something that can be done to make this terrain more navigable, because it can't be that the smallest rock consistently causes a disaster for these cars. But it is unfortunately what is the case right now. These Cyclones are really having a hard time navigating even the smallest of obstacles. Even just a gentle touch can cause you to almost shoot to the stratosphere at times. And it's something that the engineering department is definitely going to want to look at some point in time here. Some improvements need to be made in the ability for these vehicles to navigate the terrain, because it is a bit of a failure here. So that's something that we're going to have to want to bring to the International Association in the future. But for now, they're going to have to make do, even because this is what they've got. And that's what makes them the best racers that we have today here. That's why they're out here on this field doing battle with one another and engaging with the terrain as much as they do with one another.
Yeah, sadly, Hurston Dynamics is not one to really go to. If you want to take care of your vehicle, they're more concerned about their pockets and not the cars that the drivers are driving. So with that, you look to other cars that are driven by like Microtech leads and others in Crusader, as well as ArcCorp. But currently, we have a painted Microtech, it looks like, potentially, running the pack, and that's just pretty crazy.
You know, we've actually did an interview with the Microtech engineers last week, and they said that they've been working on a new front wing here and a different suspension system for the rear tires. And it does seem like it is paying off. Despite a couple of mishaps here and there, that car has been able to keep control most of the time here. And they're doing so. They're navigating terrain that the Hurston Dynamics vehicle behind them is absolutely struggling with. Big C and Major Shadow in that HD vehicle is doing what they can to keep up, but the Microtech vehicle is navigating this terrain with very little issue for now. We'll have to see if that keeps up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's our distance currently from the drivers to your halfway point?
That is, they've just more or less reached the halfway point to the halfway point. They started about 46, 47 kilometers away, and they are now around 21 to 22 kilometers away from the waiting jaws of the Idris.
Holy cow, we got a race on our hands, and we're probably going to lose sunlight here soon, which is just phenomenal. That is one of the reasons why we swapped away from the garden, is because it was in the middle of the night, and we lost all sunlight. And the garden was a much smaller track with a lot crampier spaces. We wouldn't be able to have much of a race. This A to B to C is awesome. We're seeing a lot of maneuvering around this terrain, a lot of wiping out, and I just can't wait to see who gets to that halfway point first. I feel like there should be even an award for someone to get there first, and then a final award for the finish line, just because of how long of a race this truly is.
Yeah, it's a marathon. It's definitely not a sprint, and you definitely have to drive it like one, because as you can see, these little mistakes, they cost you a lot, but you have a lot of time to make them up. So I do believe it's worth slowing down, being careful, maintaining your position, as opposed to going full tilt and making a mistake like the likes of potentially this Microtech car choosing to navigate this cliffside in a rather precarious way.
That could have been dispelled the end for them if they fell into that gap. They got super lucky.
Absolutely, really relying on that brand new suspension system. It might cost them a position, though, that might have been too slowly navigated, as we see the likes of Big C, Major Shadow, and that Hurston Dynamics car should be taking. Actually, I look at that Microtech car on the straight looks unbeatable here. They are narrowly maintaining that first place position. It is very, very close stuff here. I would say they're within seconds of each other, not even half seconds at this point, as they surge forward here down this valley. But that Microtech car does spin out. This could be Hurston Dynamics' chance to take that first place position. They're headlight to headlight effectively here. They're narrowly on the same, but that Microtech car on the straight is so good. Always manages to catch up here. We'll have to see if either one can make any meaningful headway here. Doesn't seem like it. Hurston Dynamics edging forward now, but that Microtech car could quickly catch up here in the likes of Neon Rob, slowing down now as they negotiate a hill. No, actually, that downward on the hill here is going to expand that lead here, as Hurston Dynamics is now firmly in first place. Microtech falling to second, piloted by that Neon Rob and Proxy Fox duo here. Big C, Major Shadow now firmly in first place.
Absolutely. And with the sun finally cresting over the horizon, we are now entering the dark section of this race. And it's going to be dark for quite a while, so we are going to have to rely on their headlights to see the terrain ahead of them. As the camera car here, I'm going to give them a little bit of light as well as I pass over, but primarily, this could be something they use to take advantage of the race here. They could go completely headlights off and try to take the lead without another car even seeing them, but they risk the terrain because there's not a chance that you're going to have a flat, clear area without any rocks or anything.
It's true, and now another thing to think about is also headlights. Once the guns go free, the headlights are going to give away where you are. Even firing your gun, and the report of that minigun mounted at the back of this Cyclone TR here will give away your position and make you a target for other drivers and gunners and other pairs. So it's definitely another factor now that has been added to this race, this drama per se. And I have Shadow and Big C flipped. Has the Hurston Dynamic car? They did, indeed they did flip, but they were able to right themselves and are moving once more. But that is going to cost them first place here. If Neon Rob and Proxy Fox and that Microtech car can navigate this successfully, it will cost them first place. It does seem like they're neck and neck for now.
This is quite an insane challenge right now. They are at probably the rockiest and hilliest terrain of the entire race, and it is not going easy on any of these drivers, causing first place to be constantly contested. As we see right now, the Microtech car has taken the lead.
Yes, indeed it has. It has been changing between Hurston and Microtech time and time again. A constant battle of giants, you could say, beating up on one another. We'll have to see where that Crusader car is at some point. Back in 3rd or 4th place, I believe it was. A bit of a spin out there for the Hurston Dynamics car, but they do handedly recover. Might have locked up on the brakes a bit there. That's what it looked like to me. Trustworthy and Maddog in that Crusader car, gonna now negotiate that front hill here, tumbling down. It's an absolute catastrophe there, losing complete control of their vehicle, rolling down this hill here. You really do hate to see it. They were able to land on their wheels, I believe, yes indeed, and they're able to now continue to navigate that hill, but that's going to cost them quite a chunk of time. We'll see if they're going to be able to make it up. Again, a lot of these cars won't be finishing the race once those guns get firing.
And check this out. Right now, Microtech is on top of the plateau area, while Hurston is down in the canyons, maneuvering these rocks and the terrain, and Microtech is just having a lot easier of a time currently, but they're both still kind of neck and neck. Once they get back to kind of a level area together, they're going to be pretty close, even though they're pretty far away currently. But depending on if Hurston can continue to maneuver that terrain down in the canyons, and how are they going to get out of this canyon without any sort of slowdown, there's a very big hill in front of them, and they now have to figure that out. So it kind of went against them on that. We're going to continue to watch over this race as we get through this halfway stretch to point B. It is quite a race ahead of us, and we still got a lot of headlights in the middle of this race that are maneuvering this insane terrain.
And the middle of the pack has gotten even tighter and tighter. The gaps between the widening gaps between the last place teams and the middle of the pack teams has shrunk quite considerably here, as everyone is more or less finally catching up, minus that very, very rear car in the form of Hunter and company, I believe it is. And it's going to be a fireworks show.
Yeah.
Even if they're able to make it through the Idris while night still reigns, the tracers are going to light up the valley.
Absolutely.
As these guns rip into each other, and it's I have to wonder how hard it's going to be to see.
You have so many vehicles trying to climb hills that are way too tall for the horsepower behind these things, and they're failing to do so. It is very tough. And once you're down in those canyons, it's better just to follow the canyon out and then get yourself back on track. Because currently, these Cyclones, they're either making it up the hill at a very slow pace, or they're just falling right back down. It is quite a terrain to try to maneuver.
Yeah, treacherous indeed. Traitorous, you could even say. One might think that you have this hill, you could do it, and suddenly a little rock gives you an incline, you lose the traction you need to continue to rise, and you start to begin that fall of futility. You begin to wonder, why this hill and why me?
Yeah, and from a distance, you can see the first place gap has widened dramatically, and that's because, guess what? Hurston went through the canyons, and it was really difficult to maneuver and get out of. So that gap has definitely widened, but they are slowly catching up. It is taking time. But from a very extended view, it's almost like a line of ants. You see all these cars starting to finally get their pathing and get out of those canyon areas, but it's just taking a lot of time for those middle vehicles because the darkness has come and they don't know where they're going. It's dark. They have to rely on their headlights, and every inch they go, it's hard to see what's in front of you. It's almost like you can't go full speed or you're gonna be in trouble.
Absolutely. You shouldn't be going full speed, actually. In fact, like I think that is to your detriment. Keeping your speed middling here and navigating the terrain as best as possible will likely serve you better than running full tilt at the first flat ground you see, because you truly can't see much further in front of you at this point. The nights on Daymar get incredibly dark, especially here as we are quite a ways away from the star at this point, the Star of Santon, and you really can't see your hand in front of your face out here in this this cold desert. And
absolutely,
it's a factor.
It is a real factor, and the more damage they do to the front of their vehicles, they could potentially lose their headlights. So they have to be very careful about what they hit. If they hit anything, they should really try not to, because it's not going to end well for them. Currently, though, that lead is just getting shorter and shorter between first and second place.
This just in, I'm being reached out by several of the crew chiefs here, and it does seem like a lot of the drivers are talking about the possibility of a pit stop on the Idris, as the majority are low on oxygen and already have severe thirst. They're driving through these conditions unwilling to give up their positions. However, the human factor is apparently taking a toll. While the vehicles can handle the strain, it seem like the drivers and gunners do need to take some form of pit stop if they want this race to continue.
Absolutely. And I think once we get the first car there, we can go ahead and initiate a pit stop to get the juices and oxygen flowing.
All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and reach out to those pit crews here for just a moment. I'm going to go actually and head down to the radio room below me here and have a quick conversation.
Really quick, if there is any emergency situations where someone might be really low on oxygen, we just have to get a ship out there immediately.
All righty, will do. Yes, sir. Let's have a look here and I'll head on over.
First place and second place, the gap is just getting smaller and smaller, while the gap for second, third, fourth, fifth is just getting further and further. While you're over here with first and second place vehicles, you can't even see any of the rest of the competition. So right now, first and second place are just toe and toe, right? They're right next to each other and they're right along the line. But second place did just spin out and hit a hill, putting them a little bit further behind once again. So they have to be very careful about this hazardous terrain. We're going to watch as second place maneuvers this little cliff here. Oh, and they flipped again, putting them further and further back from that first place title. But first place can't get cocky, because if they do, they're going to end up doing the same thing and back in that situation where they end up back in second, maybe even third or further. But with the gap widening, it's hard to tell. Now we're starting to see third and fourth place, peek over that mountaintop. So they are getting closer to that second and first place position. And like we've said, this race could change at any moment. One of these cars could flip and hit the ground too hard, losing a wheel. They could lose their headlights. They could, lose their driver for all we know. Just like right now, second place just rolled multiple times. Luckily, continuing to have all the parts of their vehicle, but we don't know how long that will last, because every time they hit a surface, roll over, or hit a rock, there's a chance that they're doing damage, and that damage could be just unrepairable.
When the mission demands muscle, you don't send a ship, you send a beast. The M2 Hercules. Drop heavy, hit harder.
Yes, indeed. So a couple of the drivers and gunners are a bit more in more precarious positions than others. We do have an emergency services ship that is actively in the area in the form of a Carrack. What 124 will be serving as our emergency pilot for the duration of the event. Anyone who is potentially going to die from outside factors not associated with the race, i.e. thirst, oxygen, food, will be making a pit stop of their choice. They will obviously lose time, their position, but they will maintain themselves in this race. That Carrack will touch down for them as needed. Other than that, drivers are also advised that they can indeed take a short pit stop within the Idris and consume whatever consumables they need, re-up on their oxygen from the various tanks available within the facilities. Before they continue on their race, they've been instructed to not jostle for position in there, no running each other over, no bumping of the cars. Officials do have visuals within the Idris to ensure that that is honored. So moving forward, we should be okay. Most of these racers should be all right and in good health.
Awesome. Good to hear. And first and second place is still continuing to be very close to each other. Third and fourth are closing the gap, but it is quite the distance. But this pit stop could change the entire layout of who retains their spot first, second, third, or fourth as second place. And I'm talking spins out of control on that hill. It is quite a phenomenal sight, and we are getting very close to that Idris as we speak.
Indeed. I did hear from that first place Microtech's car pit crew. They are a bit around that 20% mark of the oxygen, but they're going to choose to risk it. They do believe that they can make it just in time and maintain their position here. So they are electing to make that choice at risk to their personal health here, but they are confident that they will make it to the Idris here. And I think it might be prudent if our Idris gunner has the ability to, for a brief moment, to go ahead and switch on the lights for the Idris here and give her some more lights for these drivers to see once they are exiting the front of the mouth.
Absolutely. If our pilot on
Yes.
the Idris can go ahead and turn the lights on of the Idris.
Yeah, whenever they get a brief moment, that would be fantastic, as we do see those first cars still in the lead is that Microtech vehicle of the likes of Neon, Rob, and Proxy Fox, and then in the rear, that Hurston.
Now, there will be a main gun firing on the Idris once the cars start the exit, so they can't just drive straight off the front. They have to be very careful about how they leave this ship, because they could potentially get hit by the massive laser on the front of this ship, and that would end their race right here. Now, on top of that, once the vehicles are completely out of the Idris from the front, they do have every right to use that gun on top of it to go ahead and engage their competition, making this race even more dangerous.
Yes, indeed, as we do see that Microtech car, the first car is now aboard Neon, Rob, Proxy Fox. They are taking a quick little stop here to re-up on oxygen and consumables, but they have finally arrived. Our first car is that Microtech car. Our second car about to hit the ramp now is that Hurston Dynamics car, and the likes of Big C and Major Shadow in second place. It does seem like Proxy and Neon Rob are good to go, and they are now moving out of the Idris here, negotiating this treacherous exit. They do come flying out, landing on their nose, spinning out, but managing a way to negotiate that landing and finding their tires underneath them once more as they make a speedy exit towards Shubin SCD-1. Now I'm going to leave that well in your hands here, Even.
Absolutely. I'll be monitoring the Idris as the first car has left the area. Hopefully they got enough liquids, food, and oxygen, because if they decided to just kind of shoot through this really quickly, it could end them too soon, making them lose first place, which would be tragic, because at this point they're getting quite the gap. As the second vehicle starts falling right on out, they are now on the ground, and they avoided the laser and heading towards Shubin.
Yes, indeed, they are. And I will now be navigating myself towards Shubin to serve as that final beacon for them as they approach the final stretch of this race. Even more treacherous terrain, another 43 kilometers for them to navigate.
Yep, and now it's weapons free, so if these gunners get a line of sight on each other, they can absolutely start shooting, potentially changing who is in the lead and who's going to finish this race at all. So the gunner on first place vehicle does have to be very careful, because if they don't pay attention behind them and that vehicle behind them starts getting the shots on them first, it could spell disaster. They could be out of this before they even wanted to. That second place car is absolutely going to start gunning for this first place vehicle. So if they don't fire first, it could be the end of that race for first place.
Yes, indeed. That could be the case here, and it's going to be closer than I think for a lot of these vehicles here as they come in for this pit stop. A lot of these drivers are electing to take care of themselves, as they should. You know, if you can't drive if you're dead, and everyone's pulling over here, and we're ensuring there is no jostling, no pushing. And
absolutely,
so
and
far,
they
so
are getting good brakes. The gun is firing on the Idris. People are going out the left side of it, which is perfect. They don't want to get hit by that laser. If they do, it's game over. And as of right now, it looks like the rest of the Cyclones are making their way out. Oof, a little bit of headbutting there just because one of them stopped right in the middle of the way. And there we go. They're both on out. And I don't know if there's any other cars back behind, but if there is, it looks like there's a few more back there. They are still making their way to the Idris.
That they are. Those Idris headlights are going to serve as kind of a guiding beacon for them. And I'm going to go ahead and confirm that they are still able to see the Idris now that I have vacated the position. So,
yeah, Sereth Omega is on the ship, so they should still be able to see it.
Excellent.
As of right now, first, second, third, and fourth place seem to be within equal distance of each other, but this very well could change. And very soon, once these gunners get a line of sight on each other. They do have quite the distance on those guns, and so as long as they open up, once they have that ability to, it's going to just change the whole game here.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Once these bullets are really tearing through the air, they've definitely been firing just a bit here and there, but it's going to get really, really precarious once somebody makes a mistake here and someone's turned over and another driver can just rip into them. And that's
Absolutely.
when we will really see some casualties, I think.
Absolutely. The second one of these guys spin out and that other car behind them starts to gain that distance, it's going to open up that line of sight, and you're going to see a lot of bullets start flying. It's going to be very dangerous very soon.
Yes. And they're definitely, I've heard, there seems to be making a big targeting, high target value, or rather high value target of the tires of their fellow competitors of vehicles here. If they're unable to kill the driver or the gunner, they at least want to hinder them to the point where they will make them lose their position by destroying the one thing that's keeping them going, that tire here that's giving them the traction to edge forward.
And car number 2 did just take some shots, but I don't think they had a line of sight on the first place vehicle. So we're waiting to see if they're able to hit that vehicle at all.
It seems like there's a bit of an incline there that's keeping that first place vehicle, that Microtech vehicle, the Neon Rob and Proxy Fox, safe for now, but we're going to see a little bit of a flattening out here. There could potentially be a bit more violence in store. You have to imagine that gunner in the first place position is also ready to return any shots sent their way.
Absolutely. Right now, the gunner in the second vehicle is firing when they shouldn't be. Oh, but the first place, and now they have a line of sight on each other to see what happens here.
Absolutely trading shots back and forth here. Decent damage being done to either vehicle. Just a bit of sparring damage, a bit of a ricochet here and there, but now they have a better line of sight. That first place vehicle is getting tagged up here. That second place vehicle is also taking returns. This could prove to be a disaster for Microtech. Person Dynamic is able to land more shots here. They are hitting pretty effectively here. That first place vehicle doesn't seem to be able to return in good order. This could prove to be a catastrophe, but so far, nothing showing, nothing for it.
And there doesn't seem to be any sort of avoidance maneuvers by either driver, making these shots very accurate when they're actually, on the same terrain.
Fantastic. That rear midfielder, yeah. The rear to midfield now seems to be arriving at the Idris, taking what they need here. A short break. We'll have to see if that midfield and that rear field really start tearing into each other the moment they leave the Idris, or if they give themselves a bit of a breather to try to catch up and play for the win. One has to wonder. You can see these two first place vehicles, however, though, giving each other some distance. A bit of a spin out from second place here, quickly recovered, but that could cost them.
Absolutely. It could very well cost them. And I'd like to keep an eye on this, so I wonder if there's any other combat going on behind these two. Because this is going to... Oh, and Microtech just hit a rock and spun out. They might have just lost the lead. It's hard to tell at this current time, as they are kind of neck and neck.
Yes, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth place are all engaging in a long conga line of machine gun fire here, as fifth and sixth place are constantly tearing into each other. Fourth place tearing into fifth place. Fifth and sixth place fighting one another. Fifth also fighting fourth. You've got third place shooting back at fourth, and now it seems like fourth is taking note of the car in front of them. A lot of these vehicles are engaging each other here, and it seems like that fifth place vehicle, sixth place vehicle actually, I'm not quite sure, and third, fourth, yeah, the fifth place vehicle of the RC the Vixen, and Love Chief do seem to be the primary targets for the vehicles in front and to the rear of them here. But as these forward vehicles do see each other here, they're now engaging fire. It seems like the gunner has already been removed for that third place vehicle. I can't quite tell.
We got constant return fire. Both vehicles right now are engaging each other heavily engaging each other, and we're gonna see one of these vehicles lose this fight. And oh my god, that one just spun out, and oh, here we go, and another spin out. Oh, both drivers just spun out, and they are shooting back and forth between both these vehicles. We're about to see one of these vehicles potentially lose and be out of this fight, be out of this race.
Indeed we are. Yeah, they did weather this storm like champs, like the gladiators they are, sending and returning quite a volume of fire here, and yet these vehicles are still trucking along, choosing to kind of part like two ships in the night here, separating as they go, perhaps out of ammunition, perhaps out of a will to fight. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and they could potentially have a driver or a gunner that is bleeding currently, and that could also be something they need to stop and take care of. We just don't know. First and second place do have somewhat of a gap, but first place just spun out of control, and it looks like first place is being held by Hurston Dynamics. So Hurston has taken that first place, and second place is Microtech.
Does seem like their gunner is also still intact here. One has to wonder how many munitions remain aboard these little titans of industries, these little vehicles. Monsters of war, one could say.
It's a good question. I'm not sure how much ammo that each one of these hold, but I would assume it's a couple thousand rounds, potentially. We'll have to look into that really quick as we take a quick commercial break. If you're building a new PC, go through longshipindustries.com, a veteran-owned mom-and-pop business that takes pride in every single build. He built my personal rig, which you can actually see featured on the website. The care, warranty, and customer support are top tier. Trust Longship Industries for your next build. Returning from the commercial break here, we do have third and fourth place engaging each other, and they're trading shots constantly. These things have a little over 1,000 rounds on board as we checked during the commercial break, and it's quite a back and forth. That ammo should be enough to do damage to these tires and take any of these racers out of the fight. We have yet to see anything on camera so far of that happening, but we're going to continue to watch as these two trade shots.
Trade shots they will. It's going to be a constant flip. Oh my.
Oh, that one just flipped. Oh no.
Oh my. Quite a few G's on that one.
Quite a flip on that one. And I'm surprised the gunner retained their position in the vehicle, honestly.
Steel hands for sure. What a grip on that gun there to keep themselves aboard. See this gunner searching for that vehicle, expecting them to come up as they exchange fire here. Seems like this one is actually parked on the hill to send rounds and discourage this vehicle from going up that hill that way.
That was quite the move. That was quite the move. Sending this vehicle all the way around the right side instead of trying to fight it out in that hill battle right there.
Yeah, and it was definitely a losing battle, that upper position there, giving them a very clear line of sight and shot on that vehicle. I do have to say, while unfortunate for them, it is probably the correct choice to immediately make themselves scarce. Absolutely. You can't win if your vehicle is destroyed.
Absolutely. And the third place vehicle just went off quite a cliff and rolled multiple times, while the fourth place vehicle is doing the same thing, but they're falling all through these rocks. It's not looking good for them right now. They are able to upright themselves and are back on the track. Oh.
You have to wonder if they'll even make it to the end.
I guess that was
cars.
4th and 5th place. That was my bad. But yes, I agree.
Because they're still a good 30 kilometers away. They've still got a lot of ground to cover before they can even begin to think of an end to this situation.
Absolutely. And we know Microtech got to the Idris first, but currently Hurston has a massive lead in front of Microtech, which is just phenomenal given the situation at first that Microtech was pretty far in the lead for a while there.
Yeah, they were definitely taking advantage of that new suspension and that upgraded gearbox, but it seems like it's going to be all for naught as they have fallen quite behind in that second place position, quite the gap between first and second and third. And that third place position inhabited by real trustworthy and friends. Our early race leader has fallen now to third place, and it's still very much so in that running for a podium finish. However, indeed, that Microtech vehicle has suffered setback after setback. It seems like once the guns started firing, it wasn't to their advantage. No surprise there that Hurston Dynamics would have likely invested a bit more in armament. That seems much more their speed.
Some ground crews are reporting low or out of ammo.
Understood. Some of these vehicles are running out of ammo or running low on ammo, which is quite the predicament, because you had to take your shots, but you had to take them accurately. And if you ran out of ammo, you just lost your advantage on trying to take out a vehicle that potentially has a lead in front of you.
Indeed, it is a tactical choice, right? When to fire, when not to fire. And I think taking shots that are anything less than guaranteed could be a potential mistake here. A warning round or two is nothing to worry about, but these long bursts over wild distances is not something that you're looking for here. And it does seem like there's a bit of a conga line now as we move on. A lot of these cars have quite a bit of separation and distance, and you have to wonder if that is because of that gunnery, that firepower from these previous engagements that they've elected to now take a little bit of distance from one another to ensure that they're going to be okay.
Absolutely. And we have some vehicles that are so far behind that I'm not even sure if they'll finish this race. But the question is do they want to win any sort of, award? Because any vehicle that completes the A to C race will get an award, but the top 3, of course, will get the most. So hopefully these cars will stick into the race and stick into the fight here and finish it out.
That indeed. Is that something that our drivers have been made aware of today already? That they do have
the
something
drivers are not aware of
Indeed.
that at this time. Yes, it is more or less a surprise award for any driver that completes the race, seeing how well they stick to the challenge. Knowing, that information just shows the character behind the wheel.
American Salty reports Hunter's going to die in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that is the crisis that we face at times now with those situations here with the oxygen and things like that. Hopefully the support vehicle can make it down to them in time to assist.
Yep, we do have medics on scene. If someone runs out of oxygen and they fall over dead, they will be revived to continue that race. We have one of the cars just firing a gun randomly into the sky, not anywhere near any other vehicles. This is the type of ammo waste you cannot do, because when one of these vehicles flips over, it's going to be too bad if you don't have anything to shoot at them.
It's true. Ammo conservation needs to be on the top of mind here, apart from, self-conservation as well. Do what you need to do to keep yourself alive. Call on that support vehicle, pull over, take a drink, rather don't take a drink in atmosphere here, because there isn't one. But, heal yourself, do what needs to be done to keep yourself alive.
Absolutely. And from a distance, I do see Shubin up ahead. We are getting closer and closer to the final of this race.
That we are. I believe our closest race driver here, our closest race leader, per se, is now a decent, I want to say 19 kilometers. Yeah, 19 and a half, 18 kilometers away from the finish line. It is almost, as one could say, in sight. These drivers definitely do not see it yet, but I would imagine another 9 or so kilometers, and they might be able to start making out the lights of their salvation, the lights of the finish line. Ooh,
we have a big one here. First place just went into a canyon. Second place is crawling up quick behind them. And first place is trying to figure out, do I want to climb this hill? Am I going to become a target? Or should I just drive through this canyon? And now second place is deciding to go around it with the gunner shooting some rounds towards first place. This could be where second place takes the lead if they jump on the opportunity while first place is slowly crawling this hill. If first place can make it up this hill, they might be able to avoid... Oh no, they can't make it up. They're falling down. Second place went around and is succeeding.
Oh, what a tragedy.
Unbelievable. Second place just took over first because first place jumped into a canyon without an exit. In third place might actually take second. Third place doesn't have any headlights on, putting them in the dark, but they actually might take over second place from Hurston.
It's a tactical decision here to drive in the dark to ensure that you're not a target, but obviously you put yourself at that disadvantage of not being able to negotiate the terrain in front of you clearly. It is definitely a trade-off with pros and cons, but it does seem to be serving them well for now. That Hurston Dynamics team falling into third, potentially fourth place here as Microtech has reclaimed that first place spot once again. And then we see Crusader now up in second, after they had a lengthy lead here initially once at race start, but would fall behind into fourth and third, but they've clawed their way back. A redemption story of sorts into second place here.
Hurston might actually fall back into fourth, fifth, or even sixth place at this point as they are stuck in a canyon surrounded by mile-high walls, and there's nothing they can do about it. They need to find a way out of this canyon now, or they're going to end up in last place compared to where they were holding first for 90% of this race.
Absolute tragedy at work here for Hurston Dynamics.
Has just taken such a lead. Do you see that? Unbelievable.
Look at
with
them
Crusader falling behind, right behind them. Not too much of a distance either with how this terrain is. This could end up quite a shakeup. And I thought the guns were going to be what shook this race up. No, it was a canyon choice that just changed the entire layout. Who's going to win?
Yeah, absolutely. The decision-making coming into play here. You could see it immediately, Microtech and the crew of Neon, Rob, and Proxy, understanding that the canyon was not something they wanted to navigate, skirting around to the side, the flatter side of it, where they could get that easy slope down and up once more. And that is what is potentially going to give them the win here if they're able to negotiate the rest of this terrain, which isn't as treacherous as what they've been through. So there is a real distinct possibility that this is our final race order, at least for their top 3, top 4.
Absolutely. This is just insane. And right now, first place, Microtech is deciding, do they want to go into a canyon once again? And they're trying to go around it, but it's allowing Crusader in second to catch up and catch up fast. And Crusader doesn't have their headlights on, so Microtech doesn't even know they're coming. The gunner behind them is like, we're clear, take your time, go around, have some fun with it. While Crusader is catching up rapidly, Hurston's not even in the picture right now. They're so far away because they decided to take a canyon. That was probably a big regret.
Yeah, they're going to be, they're about...
teasing a Tonk race next.
We're gonna see them fall. That Hurston Dynamics crew is about, I think, 2 kilometers or so behind now. Almost 3 kilometers behind first place, 2 kilometers behind that second place team here. Microtech trying to negotiate this canyon to the best of their ability. Without a doubt, they might be regretting their decision to go this way. Hopefully they can find a way up. Crusader is taking the slow and steady rate here, but they are going to be able to make up that ground if they keep this up as well. Meanwhile, towards the middle of the pack, we see 4th, 5th, and 6th. The likes of RC the Vixen and Love Chief, the Virtu, and his comrade here, Coda, and then off to the bottom here, Iron Thatcher and company, surging forward here, trying to make up some ground, actually with some good pace. Could potentially be a headache for that 3rd place Hurston Dynamics team as they approach that treacherous canyon themselves and now have to make the choice of how they will navigate it.
And I just have to say right now, Hurston has just taken 3rd place to 4th place. They are pushing themselves to almost 6th place at this point because they are so far out now to the left of this race that they're not even in the straight line. They are way away from the rest of the pack, and it does not look good. You do have Microtech leading the race like by a good half a kilometer, and Crusaders catching up to them with no headlights on, hard to see them. And then you have 3 in this valley now trying to fight and figure out how to get up this wall. If they can do that, Hurston's going to lose the lead that they had permanently. They're just losing it permanently at this point because they are so far away from the rest of everybody, and they're still trying to figure out. Do I want to enter this canyon? Do I want to enter that canyon? I don't know. It's just a tough decision, but it's just too much time. Too much time being taken away from them right now.
Too much time indeed. It was heartbreak, honestly, on Hurston Dynamics Canyon, you could say. And that the electing to go to the far left of the canyon as opposed to the right where Microtech chose to navigate to it appears really, really cost them. Maybe they were attempting to avoid the guns, or just in general didn't think that direction was the better one to go, but it definitely was. They're so far off that straight line course that it'll cost them. They've definitely fallen behind into that I believe 6th place spot, if not 7th place spot at this point in time. They might have even be permanently flipped over. I see very, very little movement.
Absolutely. And can we get some names on the 2nd place vehicle really quick? Who's driving Crusader?
Crusader would be the likes of Really Trustworthy. We've seen a strong showing from them early on, and I believe it's going to be, is it Little Maybug? Yes, it is. It's Little Maybug that is going to be manning the turret there. I believe, I'm not quite sure if I can make that name right. Actually, I don't believe it is Little Maybug.
All right, right now, the second place is catching up. They are catching up to first place. Currently, Crusader is inching closer and closer to Microtech, and it could end up the gap widening once again because they're over the hill in first place, and they're climbing the hill in second place. But it depends on what happens right now with first place. They're about to hit some rocks. We'll see if they can hold that maneuverability and, get around this terrain without any slippage or flipping or anything, hopefully keeping that lead.
Hopefully, indeed, is what they're going to be looking to do. And it seems like they're managing it for now. Really trustworthy in that Crusader vehicle, navigating the hill with equal success, more or less, I would say, as they come down now.
Now, that's my line, but I totally agree. More or less, indeed. Now, that 3rd place vehicle, Hurston Dynamics, is still in 3rd, but it's hard to say whether or not that's going to stay that way because they are so far away from the main race line here of all the other vehicles that these vehicles could potentially make it to that finish point before Hurston, because they're like a mile off to the left. They need to figure out how to get back into the center of this pack.
Yes, indeed. In the rear, we've got Major Shadow navigating some terrain here in company. Other drivers still farther behind, 3 or 4 cars to the rear as well. And we've got RC Iron Thatcher and the Virtu kind of in a more or less straight line here as they try to shoot forward towards Shubin here, navigating yet another canyon. And then meanwhile, you've got the likes of, I believe that's Spawn and Dracani. No, Power and Dracani stuck in a canyon trying to find a way out. Unsure if they know that they're going in the right direction here. I think they might be actually going to the inverse direction where they should be heading. No, they are indeed heading in the right direction there, but quite a few.
Oh, right now 2 of these vehicles are trading shots. It looks like maybe RC is engaging. I'm not sure if that was RC or not, but just based off the armor, these 2 are now trading shots and could potentially end one of these drivers' race right here.
Yes, indeed. These 2 cars are very close to each other. Nearly, well, not nearly wheel to wheel, but if they wanted to be, they could. No shots being traded. There they are. A couple of racers flying to and fro here. It was spin out. Gonna find a rock here that could be costly for that lead car. Trying to find a way to navigate this terrain and get some hard cover between them and that aggressing car. And that was indeed the likes of RC and Love Chief engaging Iron Thatcher and company here as they attempted to take some space here. Iron Thatcher being in that lead car, RC being in the rear. If I could have the cameraman here take me on over to that Hurston Dynamics car of Big C and company. I'd like to get an update on their positioning and how things are looking for them.
Crusader is engaging Microtech, full unleashing their guns. Crusader stopped their vehicle so they could engage, and it did not work out for them in the end, as currently Microtech is still on the move.
Still on the move indeed, but giving them something to think about, no doubt. I do like the bit of pizzazz, maybe a little bit of a charm coming out from that Crusader team. You may have had led this race for quite some time, but now we're the ones in charge, and we'll ask you to remember it. and keep your position here. I have to wonder, though, if that's going to allow the car of that Hurston Dynamics there off to the upper left of the screen here to gain some distance to potentially take back a second place.
Hurston is moving into second place right now, which is surprising me greatly with how far off the main line they were. But now they're pushing almost into first place. If they can continue this route of flat terrain, smooth driving, and avoiding any more canyons, they could potentially take back first.
That they could. Our closest car here, 7.3 kilometers away from my camera ship here. Then that Hurston Dynamics car is 7.4 themselves. We are really closing into the final stretch of this race as the sun is beginning to rise a little bit. We're getting a little bit more light coming over. An overnight race, but it'll still be some time here as only a little bit of light is joining us.
Oh my gosh, and right now Hurston is taking the lead from Microtech, but they are neck and neck. It is very close. They are, Hurston just took a shot over at Microtech, missing, but took a shot nonetheless.
Letting them know that, hey, we're here. Letting them know that we are still here, we are still in this race. We may have disappeared for quite some time, but now we're back, baby, and we're better than ever. I would imagine Hurston Dynamics is saying. Meanwhile, that Crusader car has fallen a good clear kilometer behind second and first place. Secure in third, however, no real threat to its position there, but not really in the running for second and first just yet. They're going to have to find some flat terrain or a downhill slope here to give them that second win that they need. Meanwhile, in the middle of the pack, RC and Iron Thatcher once more engaging and trading shots as the Virtu is able to secure a fourth place there as these two vehicles in fifth and sixth begin to and continue to trade lead.
Absolutely, and right now we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Cyclones really far back trying to maneuver the canyons that were left long ago by the first 4 vehicles that are currently winning this race. And it's quite the terrain that they have to maneuver, but hopefully they make it to the finish line to claim their award. But right now, Hurston and Microtech are getting closer and closer to each other, and they're starting to engage each other as they get closer. And that third vehicle, Crusader, keeping their headlights off. I don't know if on purpose or if they just broke them, but they are gaining on second place right now, which is being held by none other than Hurston. And first place being Crusader, or Microtech, I apologize, being Microtech, with Crusader quickly gaining on all of them. And they did turn their headlights on, actually. They just turned them on. And they're like, actually, maybe now is a good time to see where we're going. We're on flat terrain. Floor it!
Flashing the high beams. We're on your tail here. But it is Microtech once again in the lead, with Hurston Dynamics trailing in second. Microtech finding a line here that perhaps Hurston Dynamics did not see and being able to make quite a bit of a gap. It could be the end here. This could be our final lineup, but anything could happen as the bullets are flying once more. Trading shots here are Hurston Dynamics and Crusader. Long-term enemies, long-term racing here. And the animosity seems to finally be brewing over and absolutely ripping into one another.
Yeah, we're getting some shots between the two of them. We'll see if there is a change at all in the, lineup of who's going to win this race. If any of these shots connect, take out a driver, take out a wheel, it could spell disaster for one of these cars. Oh, Hurston just flipped and did a little spin out there. So they're, again, losing some of that terrain. But first place is having to maneuver around all these rocks, and they're slowing themselves down as well.
That they are. All right, even I think I'm going to land my ship, and I'm going to tell them the first person to get to my ship is the winner. Does that sound okay with you? Okay.
All right, right now Hurston is maneuvering through the rocks instead of going around them, and they were able to succeed doing that, but they're still quite a ways away from first place. First place, Microtech is just gaining more and more distance, while Hurston is just kind of staying where they're at, and Crusader is pretty close behind them. Any mistakes by second or first right now could spell the end to their victory.
No, we're all right. I've let them know that to win, they need to pass the wings of my Gladius, not the nose. They need to be past the wings of my Gladius.
Absolutely. And right now, Microtech and Hurston are taking shots at each other. They're throwing them back and forth to see if they could change who wins this race right here, right now. And they're closing on each other. I don't know if Microtech has taken some sort of damage, but they are moving a little bit slower than their Hurston vehicle, allowing them to catch up. But it might be too late. The winner, first place, would be Microtech.
Yes, indeed. Microtech is the winner. And then we've got Hurston Dynamics coming in with a second place here as they bump into the finish line.
They bumped the wing, but they got second place.
They'll take it.
Fantastic. First place and second place have been crowned, with Microtech being first, Hurston being second.
Yes, indeed.
Now with that, we got to go to the rest of these fighters out here, challenging each other to this race. Third, fourth, and fifth. Let's go ahead and take a look at where these vehicles are. Right now, I see the first two that won. I thought third was pretty close behind Crusader, but they've disappeared. Have they fallen back towards the fourth and fifth position?
Have a look. Let's see. So third place is actually actively engaging, indeed, with the fourth and fifth place positions. That third place car was engaging and taking shots at Iron Thatcher and RC the Vixen, which are in fourth and fifth place, respectively. RC able to overtake Iron Thatcher's car that time. I believe it's Love Chief at the wheel for RC and Iron Thatcher, trying to negotiate a hill here. Meanwhile, third place is building that gap and finally getting over that final hill towards the finish line here. It's more or less flat terrain, so I can imagine that position will not change, but the real contention here is between fourth and fifth.
Absolutely, and if fourth and fifth have any more ammo, it could change everything right now. Let's see what happens.
Negotiating that hill here, RC the Vixen and Love Chief are able to find a way over. Meanwhile, Iron Thatcher and Kaloki are close behind here. We'll have to see if Kaloki has anything left on that gun.
I would assume that if they're not shooting now, they're out of ammo.
They're out of ammo. Home stretch here. That's really trustworthy. Comes in, and that is
Third
that
place.
Crusader car in third place.
All right. Taking
that
third.
Is our podium finishers. And then in fourth place, it's going to be RC the Vixen and Love Chief passing by into fourth.
Let's make sure we get a screenshot of the top three right there, and then we'll continue to reward the rest that make it home.
Yes, indeed. I can snap a little one here. Okay, good. Still a couple of stragglers now. So we do have our top 5 finishers lined up behind the finish line here, settling in for a break.
Absolutely.
So they get ready to cheer on their fellow racers to find that finish line.
The last 3 cars are still quite the distance away from that finish line, but they're moving, and they're moving as hard as they can to get to that finish.
We'll have to, at this point, begin to pray for their safety and oxygen, as they have been out there quite some time without assistance. Or if they have been assisted, that could potentially explain the distance to the finish line, no doubt.
Each one of these cars have a massive gap in between each other, so I don't think we're going to see any change in the podium position. Well, not podium, but in the position of their crossing of the finish line. But it is going to be interesting to see if they can make it across at all.
That really is what we're looking at now, even the ability to finish such a gargantuan task that has been set before them. And I do believe that at least a handful of these drivers will be able to find that finish line and find that happy ending that they were looking for here at the very least.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to a higher up view just to kind of show you the distance between these drivers and the finish line. As you can see right now, there are multiple way back there. I mean, you got a lot of vehicles still on the way to a very far finish line for them. So right there's the finish, and there's your vehicles.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, 6th place just rolled in. The likes of, actually didn't catch those names as they came in, but we do have a final 6th place finisher. Still out in the field, we see, I believe, that's the likes of, a bit of trouble spotting those names. Yeah, Sizen 101 and Loco. Still out in the field here, trying to negotiate the terrain. Sizen 101 and Loco Beta have been pretty stalwart, pretty consistent. Middle to rear holders here, more or less what we expected out of a ArtCore subsidiary company, I believe here, that was enlisted at the kind of the last second here. I believe they're calling them Red Core instead of ArtCore, as a kind of a secondary team that they're sponsoring in this race here.
More or less, indeed.
More or less.
Let's take a look at the rest of the racers out there.
Yeah, Ice here is driving alone, it seems. It seems like his gunner was deprived of his life, unfortunately, throughout this race here. Well, we'll send the condolences to the family, but Ice here is alone in that vehicle, navigating that treacherous terrain. If
they're sponsored by Hurston, we won't have to worry about the family portion, but that is too bad indeed. The gunner not making it to the finish.
Hunter NCK and company continuing to navigate as well, negotiating a bit of a hilly side here, but we'll see if they'll be able to use that slope to gain some speed, gain some distance as they begin to close in on a finish.
So let's talk about what really helped, the winners take the win. There was a lot of terrain issues for every driver out here, hence the big gaps between a lot of these final cars out here. But what helped, the top 3 succeed?
I think just consistency and being able to find the paths of least resistance, in locating those paths of least resistance, being able to read terrain and understanding the characteristics of their vehicle, how it would negotiate that said terrain. It was really the key here. The gunplay actually was not much of a factor, other than it was more of a deterrent than any form of a factor here, as I don't believe we had very many victims at all to the guns mounted to the back of these vehicles, a testament to their hardy construction and ability to take a hit. But overall, I want to say it was the consistency and not being able, not necessarily prizing speed over safety.
Absolutely. And, being able to tell the difference between, looking ahead is a big portion of a race out here on this type of terrain, right? Because when you come up to a cliff's edge and you decide you're going to go down that cliff, you have to really think about how you're going to get out of that canyon, right? And because the canyons are a big factor on any race out here. And so once you get yourself into that position, you now have to find a way out. And a lot of times you can't just crawl over a wall. You have to now maneuver a mile off to the left or right to get out. Hurston should have won this race, but they got stuck in a canyon. They took that canyon route for longer than they had to, and it was just too bad.
Props to them for making it such a close race regardless, and
absolutely.
Still finding their way back into a second place finish. Only, I want to say, about 4 seconds behind that Crusader.
Absolutely, because for a while there, they were looking at 7th.
Yeah, they were looking like they were about to drop out of the race at some point.
Yeah, those 3 vehicles that were behind Microtech looked like they just completely closed the gap on first place and was like, nah, Hurston's out of this. But in the end, Hurston was like, no, I'm just going to kind of wrap around. You're going to see me come right back into second place and try to take that first place win.
Yeah, credit to the driving of that pilot of that Hurston vehicle in the form of Big C. But of course, hats off to Microtech. And what a lovely finish from them. What a lovely race. Well raced, well fought. And more or less what we expected from such a tech giant that does put in so much investment into the finer things of a vehicle. But Hurston, definitely not a company, not a manufacturer, a constructor rather, to be underestimated in these races. I'd like to see a little bit more out of ArtCore next time. I do feel like they kind of underperformed. Crusader, a good showing, finding themselves in that 3rd place finish. I think they're going to be satisfied with that. Rather new to the racing scene here, so a third place finish is good. You know, this is it's a scene that takes years to really grow and mature into. So not surprising to see Microtech and Hurston so high up, but good to see a fresh face like Crusader really performing well as well.
Absolutely. And we're getting close to the final vehicle, getting within the last few kilometers of finishing this race. We have one at the very end here with no headlights, but they're all getting pretty close. This race is almost coming to an end.
That's going to be, I believe, making them Salty and Squirrel Lives Matter, bringing up the rear here.
You know, from what I understand, they're more of a fighter pilot in space than they are a driver on the ground.
Yes, indeed. And I do believe that they did have a couple of oxygen issues where they needed to have a few pit stops. So that might be really what the story is for them here. It's kind of like an independent driver system here. It's good to see them, you know, the paying out of pocket to be at an event like this is never easy. So even just finishing one of these colossal races is massive, and a big shout to them.
Absolutely. That's why everyone that crosses that finish line is awarded for their long race and time that took to get here. We're right now at an hour and 20 minutes since the start of this race.
Yeah, an hour and 20 minutes indeed. And I don't think that we anticipated this race taking quite this long, but you know, none worse for the wear, I believe. I think overall a great event for these racers, and I do believe that it was a good time for everyone involved.
Absolutely. I think next time we'll have to use a different Cyclone. If we use the Cyclone for the next race, it'll have to be the one with the 9 Series longsword cannon, because that might actually make a massive difference on what type of damage you could do to other drivers.
Maybe even something with missiles. A little bit of a lock-on capability might be entertaining.
The MT has missiles too.
Yes, the MT does come with missiles as well as that longsword cannon. You have 4 of the Dominator 2s on it, so it would actually be quite the show. I'm not sure how well they would track from ground to ground on terrain like this, but it would be quite the show to see.
Without a doubt. That's going to be Ice Ear, I believe, the lone survivor of their vehicle, gunnerless, but nonetheless finishing out the race for their representative team here. Their, you know, determination and will to succeed to be commended here as they're approaching quickly here, 500 meters and closing.
Absolutely, and I don't even see the gunner in the top there, so there's a good chance they were ejected to lose some weight after they succumbed to their injuries.
Entirely possible here. Perhaps losing their grip as they fell over, but a bit of a spin out here, a little of a lock up on the brakes, but overall, a good finish here as they eventually cross the line here and line up with their fellow drivers.
Fantastic. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the last few vehicles that are making their way to the finish line. They're almost there.
Almost there indeed. Let's have a look. I believe we have somebody a bit stuck there. Local Beta and Sizen caught on a rock, but they're negotiating it here, trying to get themselves loose.
They were able to make the hill. Fantastic. They're almost over it. And there they go. Fantastic. Beautiful sight to see that they made it over that.
Meanwhile, in this crevasse, we have the likes of Hunter NCK and that's Lagwolf. Indeed, that is Hunter NCK in Lagwolf in the independent car as they surge forward here. Actually, no, this is Red Core, the R Core subsidiary.
We might have a DNF here. I'm not sure if this vehicle is getting picked up by a friendly Carrack or not, or if they're continuing for finishing the race. We'll see what happens.
Potentially our first DNF of the race, unless the Carrack is just giving them a bit of a light here. This is a vehicle that did need, I believe, medical assistance at some point in time. So, you know, the medics giving them extra care is to be expected.
Absolutely. Oh, and here's that statement I was talking about the canyons. You get yourself in here, and you're going to be in quite the predicament of how to maneuver out of it. There's so many rocks in the way. Where are you going to climb is the big question you're asking right now. is, can you climb this hill that's almost 90 degrees straight up? Oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed. I think we might have a finisher here soon. 700 meters and approaching quickly is the likes of Loco, and I believe that driver is Sizen. No, it might be Loco is the driver and Sizen the gunner. This pair coming in for a final finish here shortly, rapidly approaching 250 meters and closing a long and arduous race.
Oh my gosh.
As they crest over the hill here.
I have to say, I'm super impressed by the, construction of these vehicles, that these vehicles made it with all their wheels intact as he crosses the finish line. Congratulations to that driver and gunner for making it to the end of the race here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next two vehicles.
Only 2 more vehicles out in the field. We're hoping everyone can cross the line here and we can avoid any DNFs. So it has been a long and arduous journey.
Absolutely. The final vehicle is being assisted with light by the Carrack, as that vehicle does not seem to have any operating headlights. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the other vehicle that's still trying to maneuver its way out of a canyon. These canyons are killer. And if you jump into one unknowing how to get out, it's going to take you time.
Indeed, that should be the likes of Hunter and CK and company on Team Red Core here, negotiating this canyon, doing what they can to find that finish line. A nice little plateau here for them to work with. Should let them build up some good speed, some good time as they negotiate what should be their final canyon here as they approach Shubin Mining Facility SCD-1.
And this entire race will be posted with minor edits and just removing a couple things. But otherwise, the entire race will be separate of the review video of these beautiful, beautiful ground vehicles. So keep an eye out for that review.
Looking forward to it. I hear that review will be attended by quite the interesting reviewer and reviewer team. So it might be something to look forward to. It should be hosted here on the same network channel. It'll be ready for you there, very likely, with alongside this race posting, I believe. If the management is telling me that will be the case, so look out for that. Something to look forward to.
Absolutely, such a fantastic vehicle that is being driven today. The Cyclone TR with the minigun on top of it. The Yellow Jacket GT210 sadly did not have enough ammo to really make a difference in this race.
Truly, yeah, something to look at maybe in the next race. Once they're being organized, a selection of vehicle or selection of armament might be in order here, as Red Core and the likes of Hunter, NCK, and Lagwolf do finally cross that finish line, and can probably say they have navigated the nearly 80 kilometers from Eager Flats to Shubin SCD-1.
Absolutely, and we are up to the last vehicle to cross the finish line, now maneuvering the Canyon of Dayar.
The Canyon of Dayar, indeed. We've seen this canyon be quite a problem for several teams here. We'll have to see if they're able to continue to navigate and negotiate it, as it seems like they are being assisted with light, potentially even picked up. This could be a DNF here, as we do see a likes of a Cutlass with its ramp down and a couple of disembarked drivers. This could also potentially also be an oxygen.
It looks like an emergency pickup, as the vehicle is being unloaded to a Cutlass.
Yeah, I think taking a look at that audio that we're getting there from that vehicle, it does sound like a broken gearbox. And you really can't drive in that state. So no harm, no foul there. If that gearbox is fried, it really is what it is. As that will be our final car and a DNF.
Absolutely, and that would be the end of the race here today for the Legion's Dayar Rally. From the A to B to C, point from Eager Flats over to Shubin. What a phenomenal time, and a good amount of winners will be displayed here in just a moment. On screen, you're going to see the top 3, but everybody today is getting awarded for crossing that finish line. Even the DNF is being brought across the finish line via assistance, but only for the last couple hundred feet, so I don't see an issue with them getting a small award as well. With that, we're going to go ahead and end this today. Thank you, Cypher1, for narrating alongside me. I hope you enjoyed your time on this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone who tuned in to watch this Dayar Rally here. It was an absolute pleasure to be here, and lovely to cast alongside the incredible Evenlease and friends. Please, make sure to come back and join us next time. We'll be here. We'll be ready, because when it's time for action and it's time for lights out and away we go, you always know where to find us.
Absolutely. And thank you to the additional camera crew, WinRar 42, and another vehicle allowing us more camera views. And of course, our sponsor, Seraph Omega, for having this race planned, as well as a review of the Cyclone series. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, everybody. You guys are all truly amazing. And of course, we'll all see you in the next one. If you're building a new PC, go through longshipindustries.com, a veteran-owned mom-and-pop business that takes pride in every single build. He built my personal rig, which you can actually see featured on the website. The care, warranty, and customer support are top tier. Trust Longship Industries for your next build.